Thank you. Well, it's being called the Stand Your Ground bill for bears as Florida's population continues to grow. Encounters with the state's native black bears have become more and more common, and some say even dangerous. That has prompted a bill that would act as a license to kill. And tonight, Capitol reporter Forrest Saunders joining us live from Tallahassee and soon to be in Iowa for us with all the details. Hey there, Forrest.
Hey, Paul. Yeah, we'll talk about Iowa in just a bit. Instead, let's talk about those Florida black bears. Why this policy matters and why we're covering it as it gets through its first committee in the Senate is pretty simple, because it didn't get through the upper chamber last year. And so seeing this much progress this early on means that if you're feeling a little bearish about the bill's success, you might change your tune.
In the last few years, black bears have gone viral in the Sunshine State. Videos like this one capturing a very bearable beach day in Destin.
Have a bear.
Or how about this boat excursion in Naples? And then there was this close call over in Daytona.
The bear was getting in the neighbor's trash, and I caught it in the act.
At times, things have resulted in violence. This mama black bear shot in Sanford, a homeowner reportedly trying to protect a dog.
This isn't a bear hunting bill. This is a public safety issue. This is a self-defense issue, and that's what the bill is.
State Senator Corey Simon is the man behind a bear bill to, he says, protect Floridians who have dangerous encounters with these creatures. If approved, his legislation allows lethal force if a person, quote, feels threatened and wants to protect, quote, himself or herself on his or her private property.
You don't hate bears?
No, just the Chicago Bears.
The legislation also prevents people from using bait to lure the animals onto their property.
I'm going to support your bill.
In its first Senate committee, it got support, including from law enforcement.
When a bear comes into someone's house or is threatening them in their yard, they have to feel comfortable protecting themselves and their family.
But plenty of others worry the policy is too vague and that it could encourage unsafe gun use.
It's too broad. What is fearful?
Joe Humphreys from Sanford thinks a better idea would be having folks secure their garbage, which can attract the animals. That or just staffing up state wildlife officials who are better trained to handle this kind of thing.
The FWC, like most government agencies, are overworked, underpaid. Let's give them the resources.
Instead, the committee advanced the bear bill with 2 voting in opposition. While its supporters were happy, there are still plenty of others who find this bill unbearable.
Now, as we said, there is still plenty of time for this bill to change. It could see more opposition in the other chamber. There is a companion measure over there. And we are just starting the 60-day session, so we'll have to see if this gets to the governor's desk. But right now, signs suggesting that it's well on its way. Paul?
Yeah, day 2, it's early for us. Well, meanwhile, the federal appeals court today has an interesting ruling over ousted Hillsborough State Attorney Andrew Warren, basically saying that that federal court that ruled it did not have the power to put him back into office actually does. And they were essentially told to try again. But, Warren has said he's not going to run. I guess he doesn't want the job. Does this really change anything?
Well, I think that anything can happen with the election, right? It really would hinge on whether or not the federal district court, if it changes its decision here, if it does agree that, yes, it does have authority here and give, Warren potentially a pathway to become an elected official again in the state, he could potentially jump back into the race. But essentially what the court said here, the appeals court, was that the district court needed a do-over. And the reason why this matters is because last time around, Warren got a somewhat favorable ruling from Judge Hinkle. Hinkle said, essentially, I agree with you that you were wrongfully ousted, but I don't have the authority. Well, the appeals court says, no, Judge, you do have the authority, so maybe we'll see a different ruling this time around.
Isn't that interesting? Well, all right, as we mentioned, you are headed to Iowa tomorrow. Tonight is that special debate between Governor Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley. And I've got to ask you about this breaking news tonight just dropping. We're getting word that Chris Christie is going to drop out. So who does that help the most, and how will this change the dynamic of this big debate tonight?
Well, I think both candidates, Nikki Haley as well as Ron DeSantis, are going to say that it's going to help them. But really, if you look at the polling, especially some of the most recent polling that we've seen out of New Hampshire with Nikki Haley just single digits behind former President Donald Trump, it potentially could help her most, because if she's in striking distance in New Hampshire and Christie drops out, he had a decent amount of support as well. Those voters could potentially go to her, and that might be enough to put her over Trump's margin. We'll have to wait and see, of course, because what happens in Iowa could impact things as well. Typically, you get a boost of momentum from the caucus state. So we'll see. But time is ticking, and with Christie gone, that could mean a windfall of support for either Haley or DeSantis.
Yeah, Forrest, safe travels up there to Iowa. We'll see you on the other side, pal. Appreciate it.